Good day everyone. Welcome back to the Azure Databricks series. In today's video, we are diving into a crucial topic, how to securely access an Azure Storage account directly from an Azure Databricks notebook when public network access for the Azure Storage is disabled. I'll be walking you through two powerful methods using a private endpoint and then a service endpoint to ensure that your data is accessed securely while enhancing the overall security of both your Databricks environment and your storage account. Whether you are new to Databricks or looking to tighten security in your cloud infrastructure, this is a must watch. But before we get started, make sure to hit that like button if you're excited to learn more about Azure security and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on our upcoming videos. Let's get started. I'm currently on the Azure Databricks service. I've already launched the workspace and I've created a sample notebook. Okay, so now if you see here, I have basically written a code, like not me. I've requested the help from the AI and I've written this code here. So if you look at it, the storage name is jbadbstoracc. So this is the storage account that I'll be utilizing for this demo. Yeah. So this storage account has got a container called source. Yeah. And if I click on this source, I have two CSV files. One is df.csv and another one is HDFCBANK.csv. Yeah. And right now, if I look at the networking here, I've selected enabled from all networks. That means like the public network is enabled here. Yeah. So let me execute this. This basically gets the account name, source, and then the access key. And based on that, it is going to read the file hdfcbank.csv that is present in this container. Okay. Let's execute it. If you can see here, we are able to successfully get the data from that file hdfcbank.csv. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is like I'm going to disable network access completely. Okay. Let's click on save here. Let's wait for it to get saved. So it is saved now. So now let me go to some other blade and then come back to networking. If you can see here, it is disabled now. Yeah. So now what I'm going to do is like I'm going to run this query one more time, and this time I expected an error, but it completed. So maybe like let's give it a couple of minutes and then try running it one more time. Yeah. Let me execute it. Okay. If you see here, we are seeing this error. Yeah, an error occurred while calling this one. Operation failed. This request is not authorized to perform this operation. Error is 403. Yeah, this is the error we are seeing. Yeah, so now this is expected because we disabled the public network access. Okay, so let's get to the solution. The first solution would be to create a private endpoint connection to the VNet where we have our Azure Databricks. Okay, so now let's go to our Azure Databricks service. And if you see here, the virtual network that this Databricks service using is vnet-si-adb. Let's go into that. And then if I see what are the subnets we have these three subnets. Okay, private, public, which is used by Databricks service, and I have an additional subnet called default. Yeah. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a private endpoint and add this particular VNet there. Yeah, the VNet is vnet-si-adb. So what I'll do is like I'll go to this private endpoint connection, click on private endpoint here. Yeah. And let's give the name as PE_ storage account is jbadbstoracc _ Databricks. This is my Okay, we already have something of that sort. So what I'll do is like Databricks, jbadbstoracc. Yeah, this is my private endpoint. So let's click on resource. Here, I'm going to select DFS. Yeah, let's click on next virtual network. This is where we will be selecting our VNet. Yeah, this is the VNet that I was talking. VNet SIADB, VNet SIADB, and the subnet would be default. You can't select your private or public because those are incompatible subnets which are used by Databricks. So I will have to use default. If you don't have an additional subnet, then you will have to create it if you want to follow up this. Yeah, let's click on that and click on next. Let's leave these things as default. Let's click on next. Okay, let's click on create here and wait for this private endpoint to be created. Once this is created, what we'll do is like we will execute the code in the Databricks workspace, and let's see if this code in this notebook completes fine. Yeah. Okay, so it is completed now. Let's go to the storage account. Let's go to the networking here. And then if you see here, it is set to disabled, and then the private endpoint connection, it is auto approved that we just created. Okay. Now, what we'll do is like, let's try executing this code and then see if it completes. Yeah. So now if you see here, we are able to see that we are able to perfectly execute this code and get the data from the storage account using the private endpoint. Okay. So to prove that, what I'm going to do is like we know that the storage account is jbadbstoracc. Yeah. So now what I'm going to do is like I'm going to do a ns lookup on that and then see what is that we are going to get. Okay, if you see here, we are using a private IP address. We are no longer using a public IP address. Yeah. So now what I'm going to do is like I'm going to remove this private endpoint. Yeah. And then I will allow it to, and I will make sure like the notebook is erroring out now. Yeah. So let's go ahead and execute it. I think we need to give it some more time for the endpoint is deleted now. Let's give it some more time and we will check that. Let's execute it. And this time, if you see here, we are getting an error that this request is not authorized to perform this operation 403. Yeah. Now we are getting that error. Yeah. So now what I'm going to do is like I'm going to use this as disable, but this time what I'll do is like I will instead of using a private endpoint is no longer there. Instead of using a private endpoint, I'm going to use a service endpoint. Yeah. So I have the service endpoint already created. Yeah. So what I'll do is like let me delete it and then let me create it all over again. Yeah. So let me first keep it as disabled, save it. Okay, now I go to this option enabled from selected virtual networks and IP addresses, and then click on add existing virtual network. Yeah, I've selected my subscription. I will select the required VNet, which would be VNet SIADB. Yep. So let's select that, and then what I'll do is I will select these subnets that is required. Yeah, let's click on add, and then what I'll do is I will save it. Let's wait for it to complete. It is done now. Yeah, if you look at the endpoints, private endpoints, it is not there. The main reason why I'm showing you that there are no private endpoints is because private endpoints always have the precedence on other things. Yeah, even if you create a service endpoint and you forgot removing the private endpoint, what will happen is all your connections will use only the private endpoints because it has got the highest priority. Now, now let's try executing this query. And let's wait for it to complete. Yeah, so if you see here, the query is completed, and we are able to make a connection appropriately using your Azure Databricks to your storage account. Yeah, now what I'm going to do is let's execute this one more time. So with the private endpoint we saw private IP. Yeah, so now let's execute it one more time, and if you see here, this time I'm able to see a public IP address. Yeah, so that's the difference between private and private endpoint and service endpoint. Yeah, now if I altogether change this to enable from all networks and save it, yeah, and let's try executing it one more time, this query. Yeah, the query will definitely work because we don't have any restrictions. The main reason why I wanted to change that is to check this one. Yeah, so we know that we use this IP address, the public IP, which is ends with 221.228. Let's run it. And if you see here, it is still pointing to the public IP address. Yeah, so in this video what we did is we try to make a connection from the Azure Databricks to the storage account utilizing the option disabled as far as the public network access is concerned. Because if you look at any production deployments on with an enterprise customer, you will never see public network access enabled. It will all be mostly disabled, or some places you will use service endpoints. Yeah, so most of the time if it is disabled, what we need to do is we have two options. Either we use the private endpoint to make a secure connection between your Azure Databricks to your storage account, or what you need to do is you need to use a service endpoint. Yeah, if you use a private endpoint, it's going to be, the connection is going to happen between your Databricks and your storage account, and the connection is going to end at your VNet. Yeah, it's not going to move away from that. But as far as the service endpoint is concerned, what will happen is you will utilize the Azure backbone services. Yeah, but it is still secure when compared to this one, which is enabled from all networks. So this way we have ensured we have secured our Azure Databricks and storage account by disabling public access and utilizing private endpoint or service endpoint. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Jai Hind.